and thanks for joining us, everybody. This is Ollie here at Databricks, and thanks very much for joining us today in collaboration and partnership with Thorogood, where we'll be talking to you about getting more from your financial data. So if everyone's ready, we'll get started. So my name's Ollie, as I just mentioned. I am an account manager here at Databricks. I predominantly look after a number of our financial services customers, predominantly focusing on the asset management and wealth management space, but also looking after a number of our customers within the insurance space as well. I've been at Databricks for just under 3 years now. I joined back in early 2018, which makes me one of our longest serving employees here in the EMEA business, which sort of shows, I guess, sort of the growth trajectory we've been on since then. And yeah, very excited to get the chance to talk to you today. I'm glad to say that I'm joined today by Andrew Kennedy of Thorogood. Andrew is a BI and analytics consultant at Thorogood. We're a trusted partner of Databricks. And our agenda today is really going to be about how, together with Databricks and Thorogood, we've helped customers understand their data better. And after my brief introduction to Databricks, Andrew will show some specific solutions that use financial data to drive intelligent business decisions and value from big data and advanced analytics. So who are Databricks? For those of you who aren't familiar with Databricks, we are a unified data analytics organization. And the reason we call it unified is that we bring together data engineering, data science, and the business to essentially accelerate and drive value from all sorts of your data. We also bring together silos, we also bring together skill sets, and the unified approach that we bring at Databricks is underpinned by a number of our open source technologies that we've created and that are openly available in the market today. We're commonly associated with Apache Spark. Our founding team and our co-founders and still the existing leaders of the business today created the Apache Spark project. And then since then, we've gone on to build open source contributions through Delta Lake, through MLflow, and through an acquisition of Redash, which is now part of the platform through a product called SQL Analytics. Global company, we're US based and US founded, but we now have strong prominence and presence in a number of other geographies, including an office here in the UK and a number of other outposts in EMEA, with 5,000 customers and a number of partners, which is growing all the time. So one of the key things to mention about Databricks, this is focusing predominantly today on financial data and the areas that Databricks and Thorogood drive value from a financial standpoint. But Databricks really is agnostic across industries. Anywhere that there is data challenges, and we like to think that we solve some of the world's toughest data problems, then Databricks can be of value and can drive significant impact for data teams, whether it be data science, whether it be data engineering, or more simple BI SQL type workloads. And what you can see here is some of the organizations that we support and work with today. And there's a number of others, of course, as we scale out the organization and as more people start to use Databricks day by day. It's also worth noting as well that we don't just work with sort of larger, well-known organizations. We work with a number of more digitally native and cloud native organizations. So not just the larger enterprises and conglomerates. It's really about sort of working with those who are at the cutting edge and are driving innovation. Specifically for today in the fintech space, we work with organizations not only generally across finance, but within asset management, insurance, retail banking, payments, the likes of the list goes on. And if there's any questions after this, we'd be very happy to talk to you about specific examples. So please do feel free to reach out to us, and we'll be happy to talk about those in more detail. So specifically around financial services, where is Databricks used? As you can see, again, it's across a number of use cases. So when you look at customer analytics, we do a lot from a retail banking perspective in the form of Customer 360, allowing financial organizations to segment their customer base and as a result reduce customer churn. And then you look into other areas, financial modeling, risk and fraud detection, which we'll touch on, credit analytics and marketing analytics. The list of use cases really is endless. I, for example, as mentioned, work with a lot of our asset management customers here in the UK and across EMEA. And the common use cases we're driving and have been driving for sort of the last 12 to 18 months are really focusing on areas such as third-party and alternative data ingestion, environmental, social, and governance. How can you bring a current and democratized view of ESG across your organization, and also things like time series, all the way through to tick data, stock analysis. So it really is endless in terms of the list of use cases you can bring to the platform. And it's worth mentioning as well that we have an industry go-to-market team who can talk to you about specific use cases and specific challenges. And we've even built solution accelerators around these specific use cases. In terms of examples from a customer perspective, we've already touched on a couple of these. The likes of HSBC, who through their Pay Me application were able to provide, fast, safer alternative to accessing cash from a mobile app. I'm sure a number of you on the call will use a similar application from your bank or your card provider. HSBC leveraged Databricks to do this at scale, mainly across the APAC region, but also globally. Similarly, FINRA, who are the largest financial regulator in the US, analyze a billion trading events per day on Databricks, not only to prevent fraud, but also to predict trends and notice anomalies in the US securities market. And in the insurance space, we will help with the likes of Nationwide, who are really sort of bringing insurance into the 21st century around ML-driven actuarial practice, predictability and accuracy of insurance pricing, and also things such as claims assessment automation using computer vision and image recognition. So when it comes to Databricks, we've touched on a lot of use cases there. The key thing here is that what we are helping you to do is nothing new. We're taking existing skill sets and capabilities and talent from data teams and unlocking the value and the business potential from your data through machine learning and analytics. 99% of the time when we first talk to teams, the initial value add and the sort of the value driven case for bringing on Databricks is simply doing things faster, making teams more productive, lowering cost, and allowing that data team to show value to the business far more efficiently than they would do previously. By combining massive data sets with the ability to do ML and AI and advanced analytics, that becomes much more achievable and tangible from a business perspective. But most organizations fail with this. A lot of organizations who try to derive value from their data tend to fail due to a number of reasons, but predominantly around the fact that data is either poor or not in the right place. The technology choices they make aren't the right ones, and also the fact that both people and the data are siloed. This is a bit of a spider's web to show you a breadth and sort of a lot of the complexity that comes with sort of looking to do machine learning and analytics today. If you look from the bottom up, what we've got here is, the number of different data sources you can ingest and the ways you can ingest that, whether that be in the form of stream compared to batch. You look today alone, you have Azure Event Hub, you have Kafka, you have sort of streaming technologies and the likes. You also have the ability to bring in data from a data lake, whether that be Azure Blob, HDFS. You have data warehouses, such as Azure Synapse, and also you have NoSQL databases. And when you look at all these things, and not only are there a number of databases and data environments that you can pull data in from, it's then what you do with it. I won't touch on every single one of the technologies within this web, but the point here is to show you the complexity that teams face. And what we're seeing a lot at Databricks and what we still see today with our customers as we speak to them in the early stages is that meshing all of this together and actually bringing together all these technologies in an efficient workflow that allows them to get a use case into production and actually drive value from it is very, very difficult to do. When you look at all these, when you look from the bottom and you're streaming data in to the minute you ingest and do ETL on that data, you serve that data as a table to a data science team who are looking to iterate and build models. And then the minute you get that model into production and push that to an end application or an analytics or BI tool, as you see in the top right, that can be a very lengthy process and a very complicated one for teams to actually master. And the four key challenges we really see there, as we've touched on, so data is messy, it's siloed and it's slow. Something we've touched on there, but we can touch on in a bit more detail. Machine learning is hard, and it's production is harder. What we mean by that is like actually doing the machine learning is difficult. Finding talent who can do machine learning, who know how to drive real machine learning and build great models is difficult. Productionizing that, especially sometimes in bigger, more enterprise type organizations, is very difficult. There are problems that come with that, including number 4, sort of lack of enterprise readiness, but actually being able to sort of help teams collaborate and efficiently get to an outcome is very, very problematic often. And BI is limited to a fraction of the data, 0.3. Yes, BI and some of these technologies have been around for a long time, and people have become proficient at querying certain types of data and certain subsegments of data. But what we're really looking to do at Databricks is allow people to access all of the data all of the time in an open format. And then finally, a lack of enterprise readiness, whether it be security, reliability, governance. These are all problems that enterprises, both big and small, face today when trying to do advanced analytics and ML in the cloud. How do we help you make all your data ready for analytics and ML? So as we touched on, data's messy. It's stored in a number of different silos, warehouses, lakes, on-prem, in the cloud, relational, non-relational, structured, and unstructured. Databricks allows you to store all of that data within a unified data service, which is built on an open source framework that we developed called Delta Lake. Delta Lake is essentially a transactional layer that sits atop of your cloud data lake storage and gives you the performance and economical benefits of a cloud data lake, but with the more traditional performance and query optimizations that you get with a relational database such as a data warehouse. And it really starts to build on that lakehouse paradigm in terms of the performance and the cost effectiveness that you get. And the idea with Delta Lake is that you can pull data in different formats, different schemas, whether that be stream or batch. And Delta Lake sits as a transactional layer that allows you to do schema enforcement, enforce ACID transactionality, attach metadata and indexing to that data, and allow you to do other cool features such as Z ordering. And all this essentially means is that, from having a data lake that was essentially a mess, you have a Delta Lake that is performant, it reduces system complexity, allows you to improve query performance, and with Delta Engine and our optimized version of Apache Spark, means that you're able to do BI reporting and ML in a more efficient manner. From a unification standpoint, Databricks is a unified analytics platform. What does that mean? Data engineers and data scientists traditionally, especially as they've moved to the cloud, have used different frameworks and different technologies to do their jobs efficiently, which is great for a certain piece of the pie. But when you're then looking to get something end to end, they become stumbling blocks. What Databricks allows you to do is do everything in a collaborative, open, and shared manner, of course with access control and of course with governance put in place. But if you look at this piece we see on the right-hand side here, the ability to move from data to building models to tracking those models and actually deploying those models, we allow you to do that not only through our open and very collaborative notebook environment, which is essentially an optimized version of Jupyter Notebook, if you're familiar with that. We also do that through another open source technology of ours called MLflow, which is essentially a framework for tracking, optimizing, and really sort of monitoring the entire ML lifecycle from experimentation to production. So as you can see on here, when you have data from a business and big data perspective, you build the models, which is what you've always been able to do in Databricks traditionally, using Databricks runtime for ML. MLflow can then track those models, the certain parameters that were set, the metrics that were set, how did those models perform, and then also the deployment. You can track, is this model set in experiment? Are we moving it to staging? Is it moving to production? And that's all done from the Databricks environment at no extra cost, and it's all fully managed for you. Third point is really around enabling analytics directly on all your source data. As we touched on it, a lot of organizations still can do certain workloads very efficiently. However, a lot of the queries that they're really making is limited to certain data sets. And the real value of big data analytics and the real value of machine learning is only truly recognized when you're doing it on data at scale. Apologies. The high performance query engine and the integrated BI experience that you get with Databricks allows you to do analytics, BI, and machine learning on all of your data. So if you see from the bottom here, all the different, sort of data sources, technologies, and databases that you can actually bring data in from, that can all be ingested into Delta Lake within your cloud environment. You then have Delta Engine for processing that data, and then you're able to serve that data and serve those actual outputs through a number of well-loved and well-known visualization or BI technologies, whether that be Tableau, Click, Power BI Looker, or our own offering in that space, which is SQL Analytics and Redash. Not a BI tool in itself, but essentially a more SQL-friendly interface to our notebook environment that allows those who might not be familiar with other languages or more familiar with notebooks to access the raw power and the Delta Lake capabilities of Databricks from a more SQL-friendly interface. And then obviously, of course, that means the reports, dashboards, and ad hoc data science you can build off of it. are on all of the data instead of a subsegment. Leveraging cloud native platforms is obviously a key one as well. A lack of enterprise readiness often causes delays and sometimes causes the death of a lot of AI and advanced analytics projects. It's too risky. We don't want to put our data in the cloud. We can't manage all the different technologies and all the frameworks. That's one of the things that Databricks takes care of for you. We're a highly trusted platform across a number of different cloud technologies. You can see some of the accreditations and compliance certificates that we've got down the bottom here, including High Trust and FedRAMP on Azure. And the point here really is that all of your data is stored natively, is stored within your cloud environment. We don't own any of the data. We don't store any of the data. All the compute is done within your environment. It's highly reliable, highly secure and managed. And it means that you can actively look after and manage the access that all of your data personas have. And all in all, that means that the people who have access to that can take control over the entire data infrastructure and the entire data innovation piece within an organization. So how does that look from a very high level architectural standpoint? Databricks is really made up of a couple of different layers when you break it down and make it very simplistic. You have the data lake for all of your data, whether that be structured, semi-structured, and unstructured. There's then a structured transactional layer in the form of Delta Lake. As we've already touched on, that drives a number of efficiencies and performance benefits over just storing it in a traditional format such as Parquet. You have the high performance query engine, the Delta engine, which is essentially built on our optimized version of Spark. And there's constant optimizations we're doing that to make sure that not only does it run in a traditional performant way that Spark would run across big data, for driving distributed computing, but we're also always working on things to improve the latency and the performance of our querying engine, which again, you'll see in recent releases that we made around things such as SQL Analytics. And then finally, it's one platform for every use case. So you have the data lake, you have the structured transactional layer and the high performance query engine, and then you have the collaborative open notebook environment, whether it be BI or dashboarding, whether it be data science, or whether it be more advanced machine learning. You can do all of that end-to-end process within one platform, which is Databricks. So an example from a leading financial services customer of ours, who I'm sure you're familiar with, is HSBC, one of the world's largest retail banks. The use case really that we helped HSBC with is around the personalized mobile banking app called PayMe. They really essentially came to us wanting to modernize their ability to do product development for the mobile app by leveraging data and ML. As you can appreciate, mobile applications throw up a lot of data. They throw up a lot of mixed data, and also the amount of data that you could bring in to complement and to improve the usability of that application is pretty vast. And I think what HSBC realized is that they needed a unified platform, not only for those data scientists who are looking to build the models and sort of leverage data and ML, but also for the engineering team who are looking to implement the models, put those into production and sort of run those on the back end. And also how would the business analysts really sort of analyze how effective these models were, what they should push into the product and how it was helping the product perform. And what Databricks allowed them to do is build a new data product on a shared single source of data, process and de-identified streaming and batch data from millions, thousands and millions of users in real time. The impact of that, which I think you can all agree is quite impressive, is that the mobile application, the engagement with the mobile application improved by 4.5x. As with a lot of workloads that run on Databricks, the actual processing performance was drastically improved from 6 hours to 6 seconds. And they replaced 14 databases with one single data lake, which obviously vastly improved productivity, access to the data, and the simplicity of the entire infrastructure. So how do we help you not only drive business value outcomes, but how do we, as Databricks, sort of assess and help you understand and communicate the value that you're driving from these projects? So this is sort of how we would look at it if you were to partner with Databricks. First of all, you have the strategic planning, how we're going to strategically help you drive outcomes. We can do that by offering roadmap and reference architectures, business value consulting, and use case and project planning. Databricks has a value acceleration team, which essentially their role is essentially to help you understand the value that Databricks is going to drive from a specific use case perspective. As we touched on earlier, the number of use cases Databricks has driven across industries is vast. We've been doing it for a number of years now. We've helped people move from on-prem to the cloud. We've helped people move from previous cloud technologies to the more modern world. And essentially, we can help you implement best practice when it comes to, delivering business cases, driving value, and communicating that to the wider stakeholders within the business. We can help you productionize things at scale. We're a fully managed SaaS platform, but also what comes with that is all the benefits of our partner network. It's the value of our support teams. It's the value of our customer success engagements that we can drive. There's expert delivery as well. Databricks are the leaders really when it comes to sort of big data and advanced analytics in the cloud. Not only that, but we are the creators of a number of open source technologies that not only are the core rock of the platform, but probably open source technologies that you'll be familiar with or have considered using in the past. So there's a lot we can do from a delivery perspective, not only around the industry piece, if it's financial services that you want to dig into, we have a team for that. But we can also do delivery around specific horizontal use cases. Is it a platform migration? Is it a Hadoop migration? Is it geospatial? Is it IoT? The list goes on really in terms of expert teams that we now have available to us as we've expanded and grown our capabilities internally. And we'd be very welcome to talking to you about how those teams can help benefit you. And finally, building data and AI experts. We want to make the data and AI community even bigger. We want to empower everyone to use data and AI and really democratize advanced analytics and big data to the masses. So whether that be instructor-led and online learning, workshops and hackathons, community events, our Data and AI Summit is the largest globally attended open source convention globally. And there's a lot that we can do to help your organization, whether it be public or whether it be private things that you'd like us to run. Very happy to talk to you about that. And please do reach out if there's anything we can help with there. And that's it from me. So hopefully that gives you a good overview of Databricks. Like I said, if there's anything you would like to ask us specifically about, then please do reach out. I'm sure you can get our details after this. And if there's anything specific around financial services, let me know, and I'll put you in touch with the right person from our side who can assist. But for now, that's it from me. Thanks ever so much for joining and for your time. I'm now going to pass over to Andrew from Thorogood, who will walk you through some more specific examples and take the rest of the session. So enjoy the rest of the session, and nice to meet you all.
Thanks, Ollie. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session. Now that Ollie's shown us through the Databricks Unified Analytics Platform, what we're going to spend the next period of time doing is looking at how we at Thoroughgood have worked with Databricks to implement finance data platforms for a number of our clients. Before I get into that, though, let me introduce myself quickly. My name is Andrew Kennedy, and I'm a Senior Business Intelligence and Analytics Consultant at Thorogood Associates. For those of you who haven't come across Thorogood, we're a specialist data and analytics consultancy. We have over 30 years of experience delivering business intelligence and analytics solutions to leading enterprise organizations. And the solutions we deliver are still based on our founding principle, and that is always locking onto the business goals and then unleashing the technical and analytical capabilities we can maximize the opportunities from those business objectives. And we maintain this business focus across a range of different delivery areas, right through from the initial strategies and roadmaps, through proof of concept and pilot delivery, right through the full solution implementation, and then to the wider rollout of that solution and into the maintenance and support of that going forward. And we do that not only by maintaining the solutions, but also we support by empowering individuals and the organizations they work for to use the tools that we create. And we do that through the help of our technology partners. We're an independent consultancy, so we don't partner just with one vendor. We work with the best of breed vendors across the different areas in the data and analytics space. And that obviously includes Databricks, which is the focus for today's event. And we do that for enterprise organizations. We've got a sample of those on the screen now. So typically we work with large enterprise organizations, and you'll see as we talk through today there are certain challenges that brings out that we're particularly well suited to help with. So like I say, now that you've seen some of the features of the really impressive Databricks Unified Analytics Platform, what we're going to do now is talk you through the journey that we've gone on with a number of our clients in bringing together their finance data and bringing more insight and gaining visibility on what's happening across the organization. And as I take you through that journey, we're going to show 3 different use cases and talk through how Databricks helped in each of those. The first of those, we're going to look at bringing finance data from across a global organization, putting together data from multiple different business units, and that really gives you the ability to see exactly what's happening and to take a more unified approach to delivering on the business goals. Second, we'll look at a very specific use case from an audit team who were struggling a bit, I think it's fair to say, but then started to use Databricks to get an overview of what's happening globally, and from there we're able to take it to the next level in terms of highlighting the issues so that they could use Databricks to highlight what they needed to look at and prioritise where to focus their attention. And finally then, I'll show you an example of where a manufacturer is using finance data in the data lake combined with third-party data that they're getting from an outside supplier to support another group of users, bringing that data together to give key account managers in this case the opportunity to find the win-win scenarios that bring benefits for both the manufacturer and the retailer. So before I get into the use cases, I just want to draw it back quickly. So I want to start exploring some of the particular challenges that we've seen with global data sets and really with finance data sets in particular. So first off, there are challenges with sourcing the data, different data sources for different parts of the organization typically, and that introduces challenges in aligning the data, and also it increases the value of bringing the data together so that it's all available in one place to get the whole picture. And then when bringing the data together, there are challenges in aligning income and costs to the organizational hierarchy in a way that allows the data to be used to drive decisions and to track their impact. And a key challenge there is balancing the need for a model that's simple enough to analyse with the reality that global enterprises are complex. And then there are the challenges with getting access to the data, especially if that's spread across multiple systems. And the data owners in those systems may have differing priorities, and ultimately that can lead to delays at a time when it's vital to be able to move quickly to respond to the challenges and the opportunities that emerge throughout the business. And all of this is just a quick summary of the challenges seen by the organisations we've worked with. And we've been able to help those organisations along a journey that takes account of these challenges and delivers better visibility while creating a platform that supports ongoing innovation. And so to take a look at this journey, we've broken the journey down into 5 steps. And I'm going to walk through each of these steps and talk through some examples of what we've delivered along the way. And that's a key thing that I want to point out as we work through these steps, that we deliver business value right from the start of this. And equally, for some of the companies we've worked with, the journey's evolved as we've gone along it. So it's good to have a strong vision for the direction that we want to go. But on the other hand, we always want to make sure that on this kind of journey that we're able to adjust and adapt that journey based on the new business opportunities that we see emerging as time progresses. And that flexibility comes from the data lake approach, and in particular, Databricks is a great fit for a few different reasons. First, data storage scales as the data grows, so we can add new data sources, use cases, even to flexible analysis of unstructured or streaming data. And throughout that, we don't need to try and predict what our data volume is going to be in, say, 3 years or 5 years' time. The way that the data storage scales allows us to be driven by the business value that we see in new opportunities. And then, secondly, the flexibility of the platform. So the ability to use Python libraries, for example, means that we can deliver on the widest range of use cases all within one common platform. So whatever the data transformations are that are required, whatever data science approaches, we can implement those within this one data platform. And then obviously there's a list of things that we expect around security, resource management, logging and so on, particularly in an enterprise organization. And Databricks has appropriate provisions for the functionality you'd expect in each of these areas. So let's look at the first of the steps along that journey. And as I said, we'll take a look at a few different use cases as we go along as well. So the first step here is to bring global data into a single platform. Now, bringing all the data into the platform at once is probably too big an ask, given the challenges with sourcing the data and the variety of data that exists across the organization. So what do? Start with a subset of the data that you know will support some valuable use cases. And that way, just by giving analysts easier access to the data, you can start to see a return on the investment really quickly and really early on in the life cycle. Also, by giving analysts visibility of what data is available, that can give them a good way to spot more opportunities to deliver value. And hopefully the plan would be that that would help you identify which data sets it makes sense to build on that first data set with. And in that way, start to build up a journey and identify and prioritize the different use cases that will deliver value. And so I want to show you what that looks like in Databricks and how our analysts can start to use the data that's brought in from multiple different sources. And so we'll switch into Databricks now. So here we have our Databricks notebook. So this is how we interact with the Databricks platform. And you can see here I've got a mixture of notes and code mixed in together, and that's really useful because it allows us to take notes on what we're doing. We can set it out as we do an analysis. We can make a note of the different steps that we're doing. And what I'm doing as an analyst in this case is I'm jumping into the different data sets. We've got all of the data loaded in, so we've got a load of master data loaded in. So looking at things here, I'm loading geography data in, I've got calendar data, I've got customer data and product data, and those are all loaded up as kind of global data from the global master data systems, just to give you an example. And then to show the power of Databricks, what I've done is I've loaded in 3 different regional finance data sets. So these data sets have a number of different measures. So we can see for each month in this case, for each date we can do it by month, we can do it by week. We've got the SKU codes, so what's the individual product that we're selling. We're looking at a manufacturer's finance data set here, so they're selling individual products. We've got a list of store codes, so what's the retailer that's selling those products out. And then we've got the quantity sold, the gross sales, so what was the monetary value of that sale. And then other values like how much stock is in the store, through to a number of other metrics that we can track as we go through. So it looks like for this first retailer, it looks like that's the main 3 that we have: quantity, gross sales. But the idea here being that we can load a whole load of different metrics into the same table, ready to be analysed. And this is the first of our data sets. So this is the US data set first. We've then got a data set from Europe, and you can see that this is a very similar structure. We've got month, week, SKU, store code, and then measure and value combination. And that's quite a common way to store particularly finance data sets. If we move on to the Asia data set here, you can see that it's a slightly different structure. We've got month, week, SKU, store code, those are all the same. But then we start to get into all of the different metrics that we're tracking. So there's the store stock, we've got gross sales, we've got quantity, but we've also got things like average price. And you can see that these are all in different columns. So great for someone who's analysing on Asia, or for someone analysing in Europe. They can look at their own data sets and write the queries to pull out what they need. The trouble comes when you try to combine those, and so we'll need to do a little bit of work if we want to look at a single global data set. But the great thing in Databricks is we're able to build up and write that within Python code. So just in a few short steps here, we put that in, and you've got your, we're able to pivot that. And so you can see here that the Asia data set, again here we've got brought together and shown with the measure and the value. Now, one thing I should have highlighted is that we're seeing these outputs as tables as we go, and that's another great thing about the way that Databricks is built, is that you've got a commentary, you've got a written commentary in these cells. So you can see here I'm calling out what the different steps are in putting this together. We've got the Python code that's doing some of the complex transformations in pivoting the data and making sure that it's formatted correctly. And then we've got SQL queries. So for analysts who are used to SQL, who want to do most of their work in SQL, but have the flexibility to move into Python, there's the ability in Databricks to mix in those different approaches. And once we've built all of that together into one fact table, I'll just put a simple, quick SQL query here on the end to show that SQL query runs, and you'll be able to see the output here. Databricks is doing the work behind the scenes to get all the different measures from the data set. So these are the different metrics that are going to be available to us. And where I was struggling to scroll through the table earlier, we can just bring out that whole list here. And so that shows you a number of steps, how we can bring together different data sets. You know, each of those data sets is maybe a different file in the data lake or a different table that we're pulling in together to bring it all into one table here. And the great thing with Databricks is that I can write that into Delta Lake. and write that into the data storage within Databricks, so that someone else coming along, or me coming along later even, we can take the data that's the most up to date and start to run simple SQL queries on it. So here you can see standard SQL query, 6-line query, will run on that data set. This is going to find me now. It's looking at the global data here. So all of those 3 different regions brought together, and I can see the global sales for each of those SKUs. And that's great in table form, but if I want to switch into graphical form, you can see how quickly I did that just by clicking on the button there. And I can change up the options on this. At the minute it's set on the fiscal year week. If I wanted to change that, I can change it here, go into the plot options and fix it. Also at the minute I'm looking at it as a bar plot. What if I want to change to a line chart? So you can see there's a couple of, there's a bad week, a couple of bad weeks, there's a really good week there. Maybe these are related. Has the sales been affected in one week and then made up for in another? And you can see the sorts of investigations that I might go on to do next. And I can do that, again, using my SQL queries. I can use Python, I can use R, so bringing in some of those advanced statistical approaches, if that's what we want to do. And we'll move on to the next step in our journey. So once you've started to get the data in place, the next step is to start to align the data and build it into a structure that enables analysis across business units and across multiple data sets. So the benefits, once you've got the data aligned to global definitions, are that you'll spend less time manipulating the data and more time doing valuable analysis. And then it's also easier then to build consistent, robust analysis that maps to the well-understood global hierarchies. And you can see that from what we were pulling out just a minute ago, where we brought together the different data sets from the different regions. We can save that back into Databricks as a Delta Lake table, and that means that other people can query it and spend less time aligning the data, because we do it once and then share that aligned data set across everyone. And so that's the first example that I want to draw from where we've helped a customer. And in this case, we're talking about a global health and hygiene products manufacturer. And when we started on this journey with them, their finance reporting was prepared separately by each business unit, with all of the challenges that gave around consistency, and each of the units then choosing their own metrics. So at best, each unit is using different metrics. Potentially there's also a risk that, of course, that each unit is reporting the metrics that give them the most flattering figures. But what we did by consolidating all of the data into a single platform and aligning that to global metrics was that we gave the central team one view of what's happening across the organisation, and that allowed the global leadership team to look at all the countries side by side, to look at what's working, what isn't working, and then get the visibility that they need to drive a holistic strategy aligned to the common goals that are shared across the organisation. So that's something that was a real success story for that customer. And this was a dashboard that we built, a Power BI dashboard in this case, pointed at data sitting in Databricks Delta Lake. And obviously all of the data I'm showing for all of the examples across today's session is completely mocked up, but it gives you a sense of the visibility that the global leadership team here were able to get by using a combination of Databricks in combination with the other analytics tools that they have. And immediately we can see that they have a key view of the metrics here, and they can drill and explore to see what's happening in different parts of the business. And remember that all of the data that we've used to put this dashboard together is also available to the business analysts, so that they can do ad hoc exploration and explore and answer more complex, high-value business questions by getting deeper in the data. So, looking at this journey again then, the dashboard gives us the next step. Standardizing KPIs allows us to faster identify challenges and opportunities. And from there, we can track key metrics and spot changes as they occur and react to those so that we're responding quickly to market changes. And the key thing here is that we're on a journey towards a single global view that gives our leadership teams and other key decision makers a trusted source of business knowledge that gives them what they need to take the best actions to deliver on the organisation's priorities. The fourth step then, we're going to start building out some solutions for key use cases. Now that we've got the data, or got a bulk of the data together in one platform, we want to identify some of those key use cases that start to build kind of more specific value in key target areas. And some of the things to look for as you try to identify the focus areas that you should target. Look for repeatable analysis, so that's places where several people are running the same process. And when that happens, you get a multiplicative effect on the ROI, where you're able to take what one person's doing and not just speed that up, but speed it up for a number of people. And then the other thing to look at is which business decisions are going to be most improved by more timely, up-to-date data. And then by automating the data flow into end-user solutions, we can then make decisions based on the data that's up to the minute. And if it's appropriate, we can even use things like the real-time data using Databricks streaming capabilities. So if you've got data that's constantly flowing from the source, that's something that could be a really good option. In other cases, it's just about the value of having data that's up to date, flowing through the system faster. So even if data is coming in monthly, you want to be processing that quickly and using it as soon as it's come in at the start of the month, not kind of 3 weeks down the line once people have had time to churn it through the system. And so Databricks really helps in both those cases, whether the data is coming through in real time or even in cases where the data is coming through less regularly, you can process it and start to make those decisions faster. And the customer example I want to bring out here is one that I think is particularly relevant for a lot of people, and particularly at this point in time. Here we had a global audit team who previously had run their audit country by country, travelling through the different business units, sifting through all of the audit data with the local teams working alongside the global audit team. And that was already leading to challenges where issues were only caught at the point of audit, and there was a higher probability of issues reoccurring because things that happened in one unit were also happening in other units with no mechanism to catch that. But then this took on a whole special importance and a higher priority given the recent difficulties in global travel. And suddenly the whole way that the audit team works has to be rethought. And by using Databricks to crunch through the massive volumes of complex invoice data that customer had, we were able to help them surface and prioritize the most important and the most urgent cases globally. So that rather than working through sort of country by country, they're now able to look at issues across countries, tackle the common issues that affect everyone, and then get in contact with the local teams and help them to resolve at the specific points where that's most valuable. And that's freed the audit team as well up to focus their attention where it's needed most, right at a time when it's really important for them to have visibility across all of the invoices, to understand exactly where those invoices are in the system and get any issues fixed and corrected so that suppliers are paid the right amount at the right time. And so just to give one example of a dashboard from that, this is a fairly simple example, again, fake data on everything, made up numbers for the webcast. But it looks at one of the things that they were tracking. So in this case, they're looking at invoices that were raised before the purchase order was processed. So something that's fairly simple, but do that across thousands, maybe tens of thousands of invoices on a regular basis, tracking where those invoices are raised and checking that they're raised correctly. But there are other things that they checked as well. So they were checking things like duplicate invoices, invoices raised against the wrong PO, even through things like who the invoice approvers were, which invoices needed to be approved to allow payment quickly, and what all the timelines were in the system. So really there's a whole series of complex questions that require very specific business logic. And again, that's where Databricks really helped to work with a large volume of data and provide a really up-to-date view of where we are against that whole list of checks. So in this case, almost refocusing the audit team from being a team who were doing a lot of their own data crunching to understand where the issues were, instead freeing them up to immediately highlight where the issues are and use their time in a more valuable way, working with the local finance teams to resolve the challenges and make sure that the invoices get paid. So we've gone through a number of steps, starting with bringing the data into a common platform. We've restructured it, we've put a proper structure on top of it, and we've added global definitions of KPIs. And now, at the fourth step, we've even started to build out a suite of applications to tackle specific business processes and optimize those. And so the next question is, what comes next? Well, logically, if we've got this much value from bringing in just the finance data sets, we'll want to look at combining that with other data sets within the organization. And the great thing is how easy Databricks makes it to scale and expand to bring in additional data and to share data sets between different parts of the organization. So in this scenario, we've already brought all the finance data into Databricks Delta Lake. Maybe our sales team have got some of their key data sets loaded, and we want to look at things like what value can we find from combining those together. And so I'm going to show you one example of where we worked with the finance department of a global consumer goods manufacturer to build an application based on finance data blended with third-party sales data to give key account managers a better view of the win-win opportunities, where there are opportunities to increase revenue for the manufacturer by introducing products that increase revenue for the retailer as well. And previously, that's something that the key account managers did by manually looking up the different data sets to look at sales levels, looking at company priorities, and trying to understand the competitor landscape as well in what was a really long and arduous manual process. A process that sometimes, maybe even often, gave good results, but there wasn't really any way to validate if they'd found the best result every time, since many of the opportunities that are available were left unexplored. And so we worked with them to combine their finance data, so the full internal P&L data, with third-party sales data that gave them a view of both the sales value for the customer as well as a wider view of the competitive landscape. And by doing that, we give account managers a clear picture of which products generate value for both the manufacturer and the retailer, so that they can focus on the win-win strategy around those products for driving increased sales. And because the account manager has the accurate information in front of them, they can go into those conversations confident of their position, confident that they're able to make the best deals that work for both sides. And this is one of the views that they use to do that. And in this case, we're giving a view of the products, the categories, the brands, and allowing the key account managers to see how the retailers they're working with compare to some of the other retailers in the data set. So again, doing all the number crunching in Databricks and surfacing it through a tool like Power BI, we're able to just get those numbers straight into the hands of the key account managers. They can see at a glance what's going on, both from the internal finance data and from details about what's actually happening from a consumer purchasing perspective at the retailers. So that completes the steps in the journey. Although I will say that even once you've got to that point, you'll want to keep innovating and adding more data and more use cases. But as I've said a few times in the session, you know that from the start you can do that with the flexibility that the Databricks Unified Analytics Platform provides. For each of the examples I've shown, we've looked at dashboards that are presented to end users, backed by the scale of the data transformation in Databricks, and the flexibility that it gives you in analysis to tackle any of those business use cases that we've looked at. And so from that, I'm hoping the key question on everyone's mind at this point is, how do we get started? And so, I mean, one key message to give on data lakes and Databricks Delta Lake is to just get started. In the past, with on-premise data solutions, it was really important to spend a good chunk of time at the start figuring out what's your 3-year, what's your 5-year data strategy, and work out all of the use cases that you need to tackle as part of that. A key advantage of the cloud solutions and Databricks in particular is that the flexibility you have to add data and to run a wide range of analysis means that we're no longer having to commit to what analysis we want to run in 5 years' time, because let's face it, none of us knows what the business priorities are going to be at that point, especially as we see the fast-changing world that we have in enterprise organizations at the minute. And so a great way to get started and to get moving is to find a valuable slice of the data that supports 1 or 2 really important use cases that we can use to start our journey, and that we can have a good confidence up front that we'll deliver value quickly. And that's something that we at Thoroughgood can help you with. One of the things that we offer customers is a 2-day workshop to explore Databricks and explore some of the use cases that will drive in your organization. We do that through starting a workshop. From that workshop, we then identify potential use cases for a proof of value and use that to drive the thinking on how you can use Databricks, how you can use a data lake, and the strategy for a phased delivery going forward. And typically, the first day of that workshop starts with a technology introduction, often with hands-on exercises to see the art of the possible. And then we'll take a day or 2 to take a look at some of your data, along with some use cases that you've identified, and really explore how we can quickly start and get to some value from the data using Databricks. And so if this workshop is something that's of interest, please reach out to us, and we'll be happy to discuss the best structure of the workshop to help you. So that brings me to the end of today's presentation. Thank you for joining. Thank you again to Ollie for his session. If you've got any questions for us, please ping the questions in the Q&A panel below. And where we haven't been able to pick up the questions, we'll be back in touch in the next couple of days. So that's it from us. Thank you for joining. We hope to see you again.